Hi, hi, please sit down, everybody. Yeah, Mr. Rajesh, please, please. We have Rajesh, Darshini, and I like to, cordially welcome you here. It's a pleasure to be at these CPB's last, I think, this is the last? Almost. Last event. Yeah, it's come to a great halt. And thanks, Varun, Suchi, Gayatri, Priyanjali, to lead, for bringing a wonderful, wonderful job of CPB. It's fantastic, yeah. I know the numbers don't speak high because you guys estimate the costs always, and the sponsorship we need to do much better. But fantastic results. The whole city is talking about it, and yeah.
Not just the city, the whole of the country.
The whole country, and CPE is named as the top 10 biennales to be seen this year in the world. So congratulations. Yeah. It's a seamless cinema. Most of you may know, some of you born post new millennials. This is Gemini Studio. Yeah, converted into a hotel much later. I remember seeing this from my childhood, Gemini Studio. The bus stop was called Gemini, the landmark was Gemini, everything was Gemini. Flyover was Gemini. Yeah, and lots of archives. The pictures you see is all of Gemini Studios. So. Yeah, so while we wait for, how many minutes more for him to come, so we can have one round of photographs, and otherwise Suchi is moderating. Thank you all.
First up, thank you so much, all of you, for waiting for this conversation. I promise to try and make it as worthwhile as we all can. I caught glimpses of some of the footage, and I am as excited as the rest of them are. Thank you so much for all coming together here. I was given the difficult job of trying to bridge photography and cinema. For some of you, it might come very naturally, of course, but when I was thinking about, okay, where do we begin bridging both mediums, right? How do we try and make sense of it in a way that's very accessible for people, where we are not really getting too nuanced about the conversation as well? I thought a good place might be to begin with talking about how, it's often said that writers sort of begin indoors, but filmmakers begin outdoors, right? I thought this might be a good point from which to begin this conversation, and maybe each of you could talk about where it began for you specifically. Where did this fascination for photography, this idea of shooting things begin? And then we'll get into details.
Yeah. So I started photography during my second year of college, and it's very funny that I never wanted to be a photographer. So I picked up photography because I fell in love with a girl. So that's how it started for me.
Well, that's very relatable for a lot of us in the room, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's how I started photography, and earlier I had no clue about how the visual medium is, and what do I eventually want to do with the medium. So I started off as a wildlife photographer.
Okay, so let's humanize that a bit more. Please tell us how your affection for someone led you to becoming a wildlife photographer.
So I'll tell you. So she was a girl in my class, and I really, really liked her, and she wanted to be a photographer, and she wanted to be a fashion photographer. So that was something that I was never exposed or introduced to, and I always wanted to be an illustrator because I come from a fine arts background, and she was, of course, my batchmate. And one day I was just sitting in my class, and she came up to me and she asked me that if I would like to visit her on one of her shoots that she was doing, and I said yes. So I found that as an opportunity to come closer to her, which I took, and that's how my journey of photography started. So and then we started assisting a photographer named Sandeep Biswas, so under whom I received my first photography award, because at that time he was working for mostly UN, and that's how I was exposed to humanitarian photography. So before films, I was exposed to humanitarian photography, and I picked up this style of documentary photography, and I produced my first work, which was called The Swan Song of the Badlas, which was about a dying artisan community from Lucknow. And I mostly work on, even till date, I mostly work on long-term projects. So I worked on that project for 2 years, which explored the stories of these artisans from the marginalized community in Lucknow. And under his guidance, I received my first award, which was the Neil Dongre Grant for Photography. And then this work got exhibited across the globe, and it was published everywhere, and that's how my journey started.
Okay, pun very much intended, but how did the focus shift from the person to the camera?
Oh, she became my girlfriend. So I had to look for other things.
Now that the job was accomplished, you
Yes.
started focusing on the real job. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Malini, do you want to step in?
தமிழ்ல பேசுவோம்.
தாராளமாக பேசலாம், பிரச்சனையே இல்லை.
கேளு.
இல்லை, இது எங்கிருந்து ஆரம்பிக்குது இந்த இந்த படம் பிடிப்பதில் அப்படின்ற ஒரு விஷயத்துல? எல்லாருக்குமே ஒரு இடத்துல, ஏதோ ஒரு இடத்துல ஆரம்பிக்கும்ல. அவருக்கு வந்து காதல்ல இருந்து ஆரம்பிச்சது, உங்களுக்கு எப்படி?
எனக்கு கண்ணு முன்னாடி எதுவுமே இல்லை. அப்ப அதை யார் தொடங்குறது? அப்ப ஆரம்பிச்சது. ஏன்னா இங்க செக்ஸிஸ்ட் நரேஷன், ஹோமோஃபோபிக் நரேஷன் அண்ட் சாடிஸ்ட் நரேஷன் தான் சினிமாவா 100 வருஷமா நம்ம பார்த்துருக்கோம். ஒரு ஆலிஷிப் நரேஷனை நம்ம ஏன் கொண்டு வரக்கூடாது? அப்போ எந்த சமூகத்துக்கான படங்கள் இல்லையோ அது இல்லைன்னு புலம்புறதுக்கு பதிலாக அதை எடுக்க ஆரம்பிச்சிட்டா அப்ப அது கிடைக்க ஆரம்பிக்கும்ல, அங்க தொடங்குச்சு.
ஸோ ஒரு விதத்துல ஒரு சமூக நீதி தேடல்ல இருந்து துவங்கின ஒரு
நான் ரொம்ப ஜாலியா சினிமா பண்ணணும்னு ஆசைப்பட்டேன். காலேஜ் படிக்கும்போது என்ன ஆனாலும் டாக்குமெண்ட்ரி மட்டும் பண்ணிடவே கூடாது அப்படின்னு ஒரு நினைச்ச ஆள் தான். பட் ஆனால் நான் என்னோட 23ல கம் அவுட் ஆகும்போது ஃபிக்ஷனை விடுங்க, நான் ஃபிக்ஷனா உண்மையை சொல்றதுக்கு என்ன இருக்கு? உண்மையை சொல்ல ஏன் தயங்கி நிற்கிறோம்? அப்படிங்கிற போது உண்மை ரொம்ப அவசியமா தேவைப்பட்டது. அந்த உண்மையை வரலாறா ஹிஸ்டரியா கண்ணு முன்னாடி காட்டணுங்கிற ஏக்கம் இருந்தது. அந்த ஒரு ஏக்கத்துக்காக தான் படம் பண்ணேன். என்னோட முழு நோக்கமும் ஃபிக்ஷன் பண்றது தான். ஆனா நான் ஃபிக்ஷன்ல இருந்து ஃபிக்ஷன் பண்ண போகும்போது இன்னும் கொஞ்சம் உண்மையோட பேசலாம்னு தோணுச்சு.
அப்படியா? ஒன்று கேட்கலாம். மேபி இதை மெயின் ஸ்ட்ரீம் ஆக்குவது, இதை பொது புத்திக்குள்ள சேர்ப்பது ரொம்ப ரொம்ப முக்கியம்ல. பட் டாக்குமெண்ட்ரிஸ், இந்த ஃபெஸ்டிவல் சர்க்கியூட் அப்படின்னும் போது அது மறுபடியும் ஒரு ஒரு வட்டத்திலேயே அடங்கிடுது. ஸோ இதை எப்படி சரி பண்ணுவது? அதுக்கான உங்களுடைய ஒரு புரிதலாக என்ன இருக்கு உங்களுடைய ஒரு பயணத்துல?
இங்கே லைக் நிறைய மேப் கம்யூனிட்டியோட ஒர்க்ஸ் வந்திருக்கு. அதை நினச்சி ரொம்ப சந்தோஷப்படுறேன். மேல் அட் பர்த் ஹூ இஸ் குயர், கே மென், trans women, bisexual men and other gender and sexuality history, political historyயும் சரி, சினிமா ஹிஸ்ட்ரியும் சரி நமக்கு நிறைய கிடைச்சிருக்கு. அதுக்கு நான் ரொம்ப கிராட்டிடியூடாக ஃபீல் பண்ணுறேன். பட் ஆனால் ஃபீமேல் அட் பர்த் ஹூ இஸ் trans men, லெஸ்பியன், பைசெக்சுவல் விமன், இவங்களோட ஆர்ட் அண்ட் சினிமா அப்படிங்கிறது ரொம்ப தமிழ்நாட்டை பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் ரொம்ப ரேர். ஏன்னா பிறக்கும் போதே குழந்தை பெண்ணுறுப்போட பிறக்குதா அதை சாவடிச்சிடணும்னு நினைக்கிற ஊர் இது. அதுக்கப்புறம் அது யாரா மாறுது, யாரா வாழுது, அது கதை என்னன்னு கேட்க பிறப்பே பிரச்சனையா இருக்கு. அதுக்கப்புறம் தான் போராட்டம். ஸோ அந்த பிறப்புல இருந்து வந்து வேற ஒரு பிறப்பு, இது நான் இல்லை, என்னை மிஸ்ஜெண்டர் பண்ணாதீங்க, என்னை இப்படி சொல்லாதீங்க, எனக்குன்னு ஒரு காதல் இருக்கு, எனக்கு இன்னொரு பொண்ணை பிடிச்சிருக்கு. இப்போ என் டாக்குமெண்ட்ரியில கூட ஒரு வெஜைனா இன்னொரு வெஜைனாவை பத்தி பேசுற மாதிரி இந்த சாமி கிட்ட கேள்வி கேட்குற மாதிரி முடிஞ்சிருக்கும். ஸோ 2 விஜயனாக்கள் சேர்ந்து காடஸஸை கொஸ்டின் பண்ணும், இந்த சமூகத்தை கேள்வி கேட்கும். அப்போ இது ரொம்ப அவசியம். விஜயனா வெளிவந்த மக்களுடைய விடுதலை போராட்டங்கிறது அது இன்னும் நிறைய பேசப்படணும்னு நினைக்கிறேன்.
ஏன்னா இங்க எல்லாத்தையுமே ஒண்ணு புனிதப்படுத்திடுறாங்க, இல்ல பாவப்படுத்திடுறாங்க இல்லையா? அதேதான்.
இங்க யாராவது நம்ம கொஞ்சம் கொண்டாடினாலே அவங்கள சந்தேகப்படணும்னு எனக்கு தோணுது.
எப்படி சொல்றீங்க? கொஞ்சம் இன்னும் விரிவா சொல்லுங்க.
கொஞ்சமா ஓகே, கொண்டாடினா சந்தேகப்படணும்.
Okay. Faraz, do you want to?
Same question.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. I mean,
because I don't know what all you asked her.
Yeah.
I mean, I did get some of it.
Yeah.
I was trying to read their reaction.
No, essentially she was talking about how... I'm sorry. the conversation was about, hey, listen, my love for this medium did not begin from a place of, oh, I love the craft, so I must pursue it. Do I say we? I'm sorry. Okay, parallel. So it came from a place of, listen, this society isn't doing a basic job of certain representation, right? And it came from, as I understand it, a place of angst, a place of concern, a place of not even feeling like you are represented in that space.
அதாவது நமக்கான புத்தகம் இல்லை, நமக்கான சினிமா இல்லை, அப்போ அதை தொடங்க வேண்டிய அவசியத்தில் இருக்கும் இந்த 100-1000 வருஷ தமிழ் சமூகத்தில்.
Maybe we could also say this, right? I mean, we often look for solutions in art, largely. And we have a lot of art from which to consume and understand and process and figure out our solutions. Take references for right and wrong and all of that. But they're saying that, well, there is no art here, there is nothing here. If there is nothing, then, you know, I must do something about it to begin something here. I think that was the gist of the conversation that we were having. Yeah.
So I think for me, where did it begin? It's a question I keep asking myself also. I think maybe for me it began when my dadi, which is my paternal grandmother, who used to live in Lahore back in pre-partition, decided when she was all of 16 years old, decided to step out of her house and go, and I think she decided to become an actress. She wanted to become a theatre performer. Maybe it started for me there before I was born. Maybe it started for me when my nani, which is my maternal grandmother, decided to run away from her house and move all the way to Delhi to start her own business. Maybe it started there. Maybe it started when my own mother decided to run away with my father. Maybe it started when my father decided to, you know, stand his ground against his family, saying that I'm going to do what I believe in and start a whole career away from his family. Maybe it started there. I don't know where it started. But I think we are so much of what we do, so much of what we create, so much of what we bring to life is a collective understanding, and, you know, it's like an amalgamation of emotions that comes together, which is a part of our DNA. Because I wanted to make films since I was 3 years old, which is ridiculous, right? I mean, why would a child who's 3 years old want to make films? And I remember very clearly, distinctly, of course I did not know it is called, I wanted to be a film director, I did not know the term, right? But I had these, you know, I grew up in the 90s, so I had a lot of He-Mans and G.I. Joes and Barbie dolls, and I used to constantly keep making stories out of it. And every time, I come from a very multicultural family, so we celebrate everything. We celebrate Diwali, Christmas, Eid, everything. If there's a celebration, it's happening at my house, which became an opportunity for me to put up these interesting plays with my Barbie dolls and He-Mans and G.I. Joes, and everyone had to sit before dinner and watch it for an hour. It was compulsory. If you don't watch Faraz's play, you're not getting dinner. It was the thing. Which of course at times it was very, very forced. But they used to enjoy it, you know, and I think that was my first audience. I could see the reactions to the stories I was telling, to the characters that I was creating. And I think maybe it started there. I don't know. So, coming back to your point, I think it keeps starting so many places every day for all of us. We keep finding inspiration. Like you said, for a writer, and inspiration comes from, you know, it comes inside a room. I am a writer and I am a director, and most of the times my inspiration does not really necessarily come from staring at a blank sheet of paper. Like we were just having a conversation earlier that I just got to Chennai yesterday, and it's my first time in Chennai, and I decided to make the most of it. So we stepped out and we went to Marina Beach, and we were walking there, and I saw these lovely murals by Dalit transgender artists by Marina Beach, and it was so inspiring. So you never know where it really starts, you know. I think it does not really start and does not really end, and we probably are never supposed to know the source of where the inspiration really came from, and I think that's the magic of it.
Fair. I always have trouble understanding it when someone says, I knew what I wanted to do when I was 3 years old. Right?
Yeah, I think I'm one of those, and even I have a problem with it, to be honest. But I think, I mean, this is It is funny.
You did? Wow. Whereas some of us who are at 40 are still not sure.
I know many of my best friends who are like, in their early 60s who have no idea what they're doing. And I think, I think we're all on our own journeys. And I think that's the beauty of it, that I understand them and they understand me. And that I feel is inclusion all about. Inclusion that, Malini speaks of so strongly. I believe in that because I feel if you're creating a safe space for voices to be able to understand your experience and to be able to understand my experience and all of our experiences collectively coming together, coexisting. That's what inclusion is about. Inclusion is not saying my community, my everything. No, it's all of us coming together under one roof and speaking like when Malini was speaking in Tamil and I was just sitting here and, observing. I feel like there's so much of learning that also comes out of it, so I think maybe it started here.
I hope you guys don't mind once in a while when we segue into these channel conversations. And in case anybody wants, without interrupting the flow of the conversation, if you want us to translate anything, we'll be more than happy to.
இன்க்ளூடடாக ஃபீல் பண்ணப்படுறது இருக்குல்ல, ஒரு கிளாஸ் ரூமில் சரி, ஒரு ஆஃபீஸ் ஸ்பேஸில் சரி, இல்லை ஒரு ஹாலில் சரி, ஐ ஃபீல் இன்க்ளூடட் அப்படின்னு தோணுச்சுனால அது ஒரு ஹெல்த்தியான ஸ்பேஸ் தான். ஸோ அந்த ஸ்பேஸை உருவாக்க வேண்டிய அவசியத்தில் நம்ம இருக்கோம்.
எனக்கு சொல்லுங்க, நீங்கள் இப்போ ஆரம்பிச்ச ஒரு இடத்துல ஒன்று இல்லவே இல்லை, அதனால நான் இது பண்ணணும் அப்படின்ற ஒரு இடத்துல நான் ஆரம்பிச்சது. அது பண்ணுவதன் வழியாக நீங்கள் உங்களுக்கு அது உதவிச்சா? பர்சனலி கேட்குறேன் நான். நீங்கள் ஏன்னா நீங்கள் சுற்றி தேடுறதுக்கு ஒன்றும் கிடையாது.
நான் ஒரு எக்ஸ்ட்ரீமிஸ்ட்ன்னு சொல்லலாம். ஒரு முனையிலேருந்து இன்னொரு முனைக்கு லைஃப்பில் யோசித்து பார்க்க முடியாத டிரான்சிஷன். ஏன்னா நான் சின்ன வயசில் கோயிலுக்கு இருமுடி கட்டியிருக்கேன், பால் குடம் தூக்கியிருக்கேன், அண்ட் அங்க பிரதர்ஷனம் பண்ணியிருக்கேன். ஆனால் இப்போ ஒரு ஏத்தியிஸ்டாக இருக்கேன். என்னோட சின்ன வயசில் நான் வாங்கின ஸ்கூலில் வாங்கின ஃபஸ்ட்டு ப்ரைஸ் சிறந்த ஒழுக்கத்துக்கான குழந்தை அப்படின்ட்டு. ஆனால் இப்போ நான் கே ரைட்ஸ் பேசுகிறேன். இந்த இந்தியா என் ஸ்கூல் என்னை எப்படி பார்க்கும் அல்ல, அது நமக்கு தெரியும். நம்ம டிசிப்ளினிட்டி, நம்ம லவ் லாங்குவேஜ் எல்லாமே நமக்கு தெரியும். ஆனால் சொசைட்டியோட ஒழுக்கம்னு ஒன்று, புது புத்தி ஒன்று இருக்கு இல்லையா, அது எப்பவுமே உடைச்சிட்டு வர்ற ஒரு ஆளாக என் லைஃப் என் விருப்பத்தையும் தாண்டி இருந்திருக்கு. ஏன்னா நான் கம்அவுட்டாக விருப்பப்பட்டு நெஞ்ச நிமித்தி வியதிய சூரன் அந்த மாதிரி வெளியில் கம்அவுட்லாம் ஆகலை. நான் கூனி குறுகி இப்படி இருக்கிறது வெளியில் யாருக்காவது தெரிஞ்சிருமோன்னு பயந்து எங்கள் அம்மாவுக்கு தெரிஞ்சால் அம்மா இறந்து போயிடுவாங்களோ, வீட்டில் ஒரு ட்ராமாவை ஹேண்டில் பண்ணுமோ, இப்படி பயந்துட்டு இருந்தாலும் தான் ஆக்டிவிஸ்ட் அம்மா இருந்தது. ஸோ ஜேர்னி ரொம்ப இஸ் நோ மோர். அவங்க இறந்துட்டாங்க கேன்சரில். பட் ஆனால் அவங்க இறக்குறதுக்கு முன்னாடி அவங்க என்ன நேசிக்கிற ஒரு ஆளாக இருந்தாங்க. நான் எந்த ஜென்டராக இருந்தாலும் என்னை அப்படியே ஏற்றுக்கிற ஒரு ஆளாக அவங்க இருந்தாங்க.
Just to add what Faraz said, I always believe that one's craft is a reflection of their lived memories. So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, we'll add it as a quote from this session for sure. Listen, photography is about a second, right? It's about a moment. Films are a collection of moments. It's about hours. It's about minutes. How do you gravitate from one to the other? I mean, is that an organic transition from one to the other? Do you see a difference at all?
No, I would say I don't see a difference because the kind of photography projects that I do are also narrative based. So whenever I shoot a picture, it's not just comprising of just one picture. It's basically a series. So when I'm working on a series and when I'm working on a project for, let's say, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years down the line, I tend to create thousands of images. So for me, images are not important. What important is the narrative and how I want to showcase the story that I am actually working on and whose perspective it is. So if I'm working on a particular community, I am Muslim, so most of my work comes from that background. I work mostly on the Muslim community and the marginalized communities, and mostly from Lucknow. So I always try and tend to bring their perspective of how they want their stories to be told. So that is very important, I feel.
Could I ask you to press upon it a bit further? Like,
yes.
What would it mean in terms of visuals? how would that get communicated through how you interpret your visuals?
So I'll tell you, I'll give you an example of my first project only that I spoke about. So when I was working on the Mukesh Padla Artisan, and I actually tucked down all the archive of all the photographers and the filmmakers, like for example, Muzaffar Ali have worked on that, and a lot of other photographers as well. What I came across was mostly the images and the visuals or the videos from the karkhanas or the artisans creating that work. But there was nothing beyond that. There was no story to it. It was just a mere documentation, as we say. So when I approached this project, I told myself that I'm gonna come up with a narrative. So I'll tell you how I divided my project and then I stitched it together. So when I started, I actually went and without my camera, and I started going to these karkhanas every day, and I used to sit with all these artisans from morning till noon, and then of course sometimes in the evening, and then I created a relationship where they started telling me the story and the journey of their own lives. So the first phase of my project documented the craft inside the warehouses. The second phase of my project documented the process. In the third phase, I came back to my own house where I shot a couple of portraits of my own mother, because the embroidery, like even if we talk about Chikankari or Mukesh or Ari Zardozi, every family has a legacy of all these embroideries. I mean, my mother was given, so earlier, now they use polished gold and silver wire, but earlier real wires of gold and silver metallic wires were used and were inserted into the fabric and then twisted to make metallic embroidery. So it was basically a part of every family in Lucknow. So my mother also got a couple of those dresses from her in-laws. So I asked my mother to take those clothes out, and I took her portraits in those 150 years old clothes, which were intergenerational. And then again, I stepped out and I documented the life of these artisans in their own way. They didn't wanted to predict themselves as poor people who are just, who do not have the means of, to get education or to get their medical treatments done. I do not wanted to show these visuals. So I started documenting how the craft is actually a part of their family, how their children play with that particular craft, and how it is like a family member to them. And then slowly I moved on to the last phase of the project, which was about how this craft is actually related to Lucknow and what's the legacy behind it. So this is how I stitched all the narrative together and created a story out of it. So for me, story is the most important thing. It's even more important than a good visual.
Right. One of the patterns that I can already see forming here, even though the three of you spoke about different things, is how this idea of a family comes in very organically. You were talking about your origins. It had a lot to do with your mom, your dad, and she was talking about it. You were talking about how you shot her. What's that like to work with someone in your family to create art?
Yes. So I think that's what I said. I mean, it's a reflection of your lived memories. It's basically all that, comes up to us, and those are the emotions that we try to channelize through a certain medium, which is why that reflection is always there. And I feel that is the most important part of storytelling, because that creates your identity as an artist or a filmmaker.
Right. Faraz, you also, you speak about representation, you handle a lot of that in your work as well. I wonder, and that's a lot about breaking the rules, right? Breaking the established norms. You're constantly trying to challenge what society says is right and wrong. Do you find yourself doing something similar with your craft as well to mirror those ideas?
Yes and no, actually. Yes, because I remember when I made Sheer Korma, which is my short feature with Shabana Azmi, Jeevarathnam and Swara Bhaskar. We shot it in 2019 and was supposed to have its world premiere at the BFI in March 2020, and of course the pandemic happened and we had to wait out for more than a year for the film to release, and eventually it opened up at San Francisco. But I remember when the trailer of Sheer Korma dropped in 2019, in 2020, there was a lot of interesting feedback on the film. Predominantly, of course, the film has Shabana Azmi and Swara Bhaskar, two people who are, pretty strong in their ideologies and political opinions and all of that. Which kind of one is trying to be polite in this room, which kind of does ruffle a lot of feathers in this country. Interestingly, my film got all of that backlash when the trailer dropped. And I remember there was a campaign that was launched on Twitter, which ran for 6 weeks, saying hashtag boycott Sheer Korma. And then an IMDb page was created for my film, which we had created. And before the film released, this is all happening pre-release, people started going on IMDb and giving ratings to my film. A film which has not released.
Yeah, that's a norm today, by the way.
Yeah, but
You review films before the release.
yes, but this was like, I think it started, this journey, I know where it started. This started with my film. Because I remember one night in the middle of pandemic, right, everyone was like, what is day, what is night? And then my friend calls me and he's like, have you seen your IMDb page of Shecom? And I said, why? Because the film's not released. Why will I see my IMDb? He's like, no, there are reviews written about your film and your film has a rating of 1 point something. I was like, what? I said, who is doing this? And there were 700 reviews and ratings to Sheer Korma a year before the film has released. So,
Yeah, that counts for something, right? They have seen nothing of your film and they still gave it 1 point.
yes, but a sensitive person has to go through a lot of therapy to get over that. And I remember I reached out to my lawyers. I said, can we call IMDb and take this down? And they said, no, you cannot. Because IMDb is a public forum where everyone gets to express. But I said, but the film has not released. Nobody has seen this film. And the reviews were like, Sheer Korma bad. Shabana Azmi worse. Swara Bhaskar eat shit. And I was like, I said, this has nothing to do with my film. Anyway, but you learn very soon when you do things like that. And then of course, one night I was sitting with my mother and I said, I shouldn't have casted Shabana ji and Swara in my film. I said, this is really bad. She's like, no, every publicity is good publicity. Go out and make the most of it. My mother always used to see the bright side of everything, which I'm yet to learn. But the other interesting feedback that I got for Sheer Korma was a lot of people from the queer community really came for my neck because they were like, wait a minute, where is my representation in this film? Because Sheer Korma, as you must have seen in the trailer, it's about a Muslim family. They were like, I don't see myself represented in this. And I was like, wait a minute, first of all, literally every film that is made, 99% of the films made in this country are, speaking politely, about a majoritarian faith. Most families are Malhotras and Guptas and the so ons and the so forths and all of it. And I said, one time a person makes a film about their family and everyone is upset. Then they said, but then, then the minorities came for me, of course. They were like, how dare you make a film about queer and Muslims together? I was like, wow, great, I've upset everyone with a film. A film which is about love and acceptance has really brought everyone out of the closet, right? Everyone's out, guns blazing. And then there was one very interesting thing. They said, if Shabana Azmi is playing a Muslim mother in your film, how is she wearing a sari? And that was like mic drop for me. I said, wait a minute, so wait, Muslim women cannot wear sari? They're like, no, she's supposed to be in a, I said, what? I said, no, I want to know. At this point, I really want to know, what should a Muslim mother wear? They're like, I don't know, like a chicken curry, garara. And I was like, I said, I'm from a Muslim family. My mother does not wear. My mother wears like whatever she wants to wear, and that's what it is. But interesting. And then they said, but why did you call it Sheer Korma? And I said, and because the film starts with a Eid lunch. They said, yeah, but it's so non-inclusive. I said, how? They said, no, you should have called it like Gajar ka halwa, Kaju Katri, Motichur Laddu, something like that, more accessible. And I was like, this never ends, right? So I said, wait a minute. So I said, what is the problem with Sheer Korma? They said, no, it's very Muslim. A dessert in this country has a religion. Sari in this country has a religion, right? Which is so many, there is constantly, one is trying to do one thing, and then when you do that thing, you realize, wait a minute, what have I done, right? It's kind of, there's so many stereotypes that one is trying to break, which I think happens when you're trying to make a story which is very authentically and deeply rooted to your ethos and the cultural subtext that where you come from, right?
Can I ask you something here? As writers, filmmakers, right, you're constantly oscillating between two things. One, you want your work to be relatable. You want people to get what you're saying. But then you're also constantly in the realm of what you're trying to do. You're trying to break rules. You're trying to say that, hey, a Muslim doesn't need to look like this. A gay person doesn't need to do this or look like this. You're challenging it by not necessarily playing to the stereotypes associated with such people. How do you strike this balance? Because on one level, you want them to understand your world, not just keep it at an arm's distance, even the well-meaning ones. On another, you're trying to break all these rules. Like, how do you deal with it? Because they became stereotypes for a reason, right?
No, I hear you. But to be very honest with you, I'm going to be very honest with this room. I believe in honesty, and I believe this is a safe space. I think I want to say the F word really bad, but I won't. But to hell with people and what they want. I think art is, like you said, art. People find answers in art. I don't think art is meant to answer any questions. Art is meant to ask more questions. Art is meant to make you think more, to make you feel more. It's meant to create an angst inside you to question yourself deeply. And I think that is what art needs to do. That being said, yes, I think one does oscillate between, yes, you want to be accepted, at the same time you want to break rules, but I don't really think about it. I think when I made Sisak, or when I made Chilkama, or now when I've made my feature film called Bantiki, which has Shabana Azmi, it is Jeevarathnam's comeback film. She's coming back to screen after 40 years.
So you didn't mind working with Shabana first time around?
I love her, she loves me, it's great. And it has Abhay Deol in it, and it has 300 children in it, Bantiki. So when I was shooting Bantiki also, again, it's at the crux of representation and inclusion and so many other things, but one is not thinking of it saying like, I want to make a film on this. I am just trying to be authentic to who I am, and if things happen, things happen. So I think, no, I feel that if you are being authentic and honest to your own voice, you're listening to who you are and why you're doing what you're doing, I think things happen naturally.
Right, so you're not really
it.
agonizing over, will they get it, will they won't, will they touch themselves to it, will they laugh and all that?
Then I would have been a scientist now. I'm not a scientist. I make films and I deal with emotions, and emotions that many times I don't understand. And I feel that the day I start understanding emotions is the day I'll stop making films.
I find that to be very refreshing, because you know how mainstream cinema generally gets created.
What is mainstream cinema?
I mean, you're talking about the big budget cinema that's meant to cater to the masses.
I made a big budget film now, but I don't know whether it's mainstream or not. I feel, again, our perception. I understand if you say the commercial cinema, then I understand, because I feel mainstream is a word that is massively misused. Wow, mainstream massively misused. That's a nice. I think.
Yeah, we've got another quote here.
Yeah, I think it's a sweatshirt situation. Yeah, I feel it. Next edition, but no. I think mainstream is something which is accessible to everyone, no matter who you are, where you come from, what your background is, who you love, none of that matters. It brings everyone together. It's a collective experience that everyone gets to feel. I feel that is what mainstream should aspire to be, rather than it being a bad word. So I feel, I think one has to reclaim mainstream. Like for us, queer people, we had to reclaim the word queer, which was, I think back in the 90s, it was a bad word. But now we very proudly use the word queer. I have my friends who use the word faggot very openly and very proudly, saying like, that's my identity. You throw a bad word at me, I will reclaim it. So I feel like I'm trying to reclaim mainstream in my own way and my own aesthetics with my own understandings and nuances. So I feel there has to be space for us to create those spaces for others to be like, if that's your understanding of mainstream, this is my understanding of mainstream. And that's how I think we'll start making nicer, better, more mainstream stuff together.
Excellent. Malini, நீங்கள் வந்து ஒரு டாக்குமெண்ட்ரியை ஒரு பெரிய ஒரு முழு அன்போடு ஆரம்பிக்கல அந்த ஜேர்னியை இல்லை. நீங்கள் என்ன சொன்னீங்கன்னா நீங்கள் ஃபிக்ஷன் தான் பண்ணணும் அப்படின்றது உங்களுடைய முதல் நோக்கமாக இருந்துச்சு. பட் இதை நீங்கள் பண்ண ஆரம்பிச்சிங்கன்னு, அதனால உங்களுக்கு எப்போ
அதில் அன்பு இல்லாமல் இல்லை, அன்பு இல்லாமல் இங்கே எதுவுமே இல்லை. இந்த சமூகத்தை ரொம்ப நேசிக்கிற ஒருத்தரால தான் அந்த சமூகத்தின் மேலே காட்டுத்தனமாக கோவப்பட முடியும். ஏன் இப்படி நடத்துகிறேன்னு சட்டையை பிடிச்சி கேட்க முடியும். கண்டுக்காமல் விட்டுட்டோன்னா அது நம்ம ஒரு சராசரி வாழ்க்கை வாழ்ந்துட்டு போயிடுவோம். பேரன்புனால தான் கோவம் வருது, அந்த கோவத்தினால தான் சினிமா எடுக்கணும்னு தோணும்.
அந்த மீடியம் ஸ்பெசிஃபிக்கலி சொல்கிறேன் நான். இப்போ உங்களுக்கு அந்த மீடியம் மேலே இந்த டாக்குமெண்ட்ரி அப்படிங்கிற ஒரு ஸ்பேஸ்க்குள்ள இதுவே எனக்கு ஒரு பூர்த்தி ஒரு ஒரு பெரிய அமைதியை கொடுக்குது, இதுவே எனக்கு ஒரு பெரிய சந்தோஷத்தை ஃபுல்ஃபில்மெண்ட்டை கொடுக்குது அப்படின்ற ஒரு உணர்வு எப்போ வர ஆரம்பிச்சது உங்களுக்கு? இதுலேருந்து நான் ஃபிக்ஷன் பக்கம்லாம் போகணுன்ற அவசியம் இல்லை.
சாகுற வரை இந்த பசி அடங்காதில்ல, தினத்துக்கு சாப்பாடு வேணும்ல. இந்த பூர்த்தி அடைஞ்ச ஒரு வாழ்க்கைங்கிறது ஒரு போரான லைஃப்னு தான் நான் பார்க்குறேன். நான் என்னோட கடைசி மூச்சு வரைக்கும் இந்த பசி இருக்கணும்னு நினைக்கிறேன். அது டாக்குமெண்ட்ரியாக இருக்கலாம், சினிமாவாக இருக்கலாம், நடிப்பாக இருக்கலாம். ஆகச்சிறந்த ஒரு நல்ல உணவை பரிமாறுறதுக்கும் பசியாடுறதுக்கும் நம்ம ஆர்ட் வந்து ஒரு பெரிய ஸ்பேஸாக இருக்கணும்னு நினைக்கிறேன்.
ரைட். கம்மிங் பேக் டு ஃபோட்டோகிராஃபி, நிறைய வந்து தமிழில் சொல்கிறேன் பாருங்க. ஆஃபன் யூ ஹேவ் a lot of people reference photographs, right, in terms of when they are trying to figure out the visual tone of a film. Cinematographers are constantly obsessing over photographs and paintings and all of this as well. So do you wanna touch upon how important they become in figuring out the idea for a film in terms of how a film must look, feel, one still image that works there?
I feel it's very important. I mean, it goes beyond just that, and what I wrote to you saying that beyond continuity, because all of the stills that we make on films, there are certain directors who are very particular about how their film they want to get it shot, or why they need a photographer on the set, because it also becomes a visual archive, and it's going to also become an something which might also be used for academic purpose in the coming future. So which is why I feel photography is very important, but to be very honest, there are very few directors in India who understand the nuance of the medium and also the importance of it. So I realized this when I was working with Meera Nair on A Suitable Boy, and I still remember my first interaction with her in Lucknow. And Lydia, her producer, as well as the other director she works with, she introduced me to Meera, and Meera comes with this fat book where she had all the visuals from different photographers, and she sat down and she showed me all the pictures from people like Raghu Rai, Raghuveer Singh, to Dayanita, to of course to other international photographers as well. And then she sat and spoke to me about photography. She never spoke to me about filmmaking. She never spoke to me about A Suitable Boy. All she spoke to me was about who are your favorite photographers and what do you think of these. So I feel visuals are very important for also for the cinematographer to compose images. If you would realize, and I might be wrong in it, it could be something which comes from my perspective, that I always feel that cinematographers who were earlier photographers, or film directors who were earlier photographers, they have a very good sense of storytelling as well as composition, and also of course colors. So, and because the visual, it not just decides the mood, and eventually, as we say, whether it's filmmaking or photography, it's a visual medium. So that's what we rely on. So I feel that's what the importance of photography is in filmmaking. So I have worked on a lot of features with Vishal Bhardwaj, with Meera Nair, and sadly there are only a couple of names I can count on my fingers, and Faraz of course is sitting over here. Unfortunately I couldn't work on his film, but it's Meera Nair who gives a lot of importance to photography. There was a specific seat right next to the cinematographer where she wanted me to sit all the time and take pictures. She used to hold the scene for me just to compose and take images. She would ask a cinematographer like Declan Quinn, who has done such big films in Hollywood, just to set up the lighting just for me to take one single picture. So that's much they invest in photography, and same goes for Vishal Bhardwaj. And now I'll tell you what she's doing out of it. Meera Nair is creating a book of all the images that have been shot on her film sets, from Dayanita to me, of course, shooting A Suitable Boy, and other photographers. So they understand the nuance of the medium and the archival value of these images, which goes beyond just checking the continuity or getting a good frame for your film.
Sorry. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Just to add one thing here, that's what I also try to, as I told you, that for me, more than the visuals, it's the storytelling that is important. So when you will go through all of my images, and if you have seen all these films and series, you'll get to understand that the way I shoot the images is the way the film proceeds story-wise. So that is my specific style in which I shoot stills images on the sets.
I think I can speak for everyone and say that was lovely. Yeah, I just realized I could have watched another, I don't know, I could have watched 10-15 minutes more of that. So how much of it is choreographed for your benefit? Because I look at some of the shots and I'm like, oof, okay, did he just capture it while they were working? Like,
No. It's a mix of both candid and constructed photography. So sometimes when I'm on the set, I have the leverage of doing so. So there are times, of course, one cannot hold for stills all the time. So as a photographer who is working on a film set, you have to be very smart and quick because you cannot disturb everyone else. And it's a team work. So, you know, if you are out there all the time asking to hold for stills, and it's a very time crunch job. So you have to be very smart and quick that even if there is a take going on, you should be out there invisible in front of everyone and just take the picture. And of course, like I shoot in a very different way. I do not shoot like other still photographers who just go out there and take just snippets of what the already scene is. Like if you are shooting the same thing that the cinematographer has already constructed, there is no point in creating such stills. Those are just again mere documentation. So I always try to shoot it in a way I see the story, which is why I always ask for the script before the shoot starts, and I go through the whole script and then I create my own mood board, and that's how I shoot a film.
with Mira, you mentioned that she's used all these photographs and done something with it. Did you have that assurance while you were doing that as well? To what utility was all this being done generally?
So the only thing that was on my mind when I was creating these images on the sets of Suitable Boy was one, that it is going to have an archival value after let's say 20-30 years. And secondly, the other thing was that she was the first. So before Mira, I won't take the name of the director. He's a very famous Bollywood film director. I basically got a job on his set as a still photographer, and I left the film in 15 days. So I had a very bad experience over there, and that's when I decided this is not the industry where I want to be, and I do not want to work in this industry with such shitty people out there. So I came back.
I like how we are very easy with the language today.
Well, I think Faraz and I will both So I came back, and that's when I started focusing on my artworks. So Mira's producer, Aradhana Seth, who is also Vikram Seth's sister, she saw my exhibition in France, and that's how she got in touch with me. She wrote a whole email to which I didn't respond. So she asked one of her assistants to call me up. They called and I said, no, I'm not interested. Then I don't know what happened to them, and Mira was very adamant that she wanted me to shoot a Suitable Boy because it was being shot in Lucknow, and also the kind of story she had, she thought that I would do justice to it. Then Aradhana flew down from Bombay just to meet me, and that's when I told her the whole story and my experience. And I said that I don't think I'm made for this industry. And also, of course, I had a humanitarian background as well. So she said, okay, you do one thing, you come to Lucknow, we all are doing the prep. You are from Lucknow, you have a house here, you come, you spend time with us, and if you like our crew, you like our people, you work with us, else I'm fine with it. And that's what I did, and that's how I got to meet Meera and everyone, and that's how I got very close to them. And the first thing I told them that I'm going to shoot your series my way, not yours, because I have a particular vision of how I look at your storytelling and how you design the frame. And then I used to sit with Declan a lot, and Declan is kind of a person who doesn't like anyone in the room when he is actually setting up his shot, and for some reason he allowed me, so as to go sit there in the corner and just make my own mood board. So that's how my journey started, and then I worked on another international film called The Braid, which stars Kim Raver from Grey's Anatomy and a couple of other stars. So the director over there also was very adamant in creating a book. So she published a whole book about the making of the film recently, which got released in France. So I usually, that's the reason I am very choosy and very particular with working for, like with working on film sets.
Yeah, I mean, watching this collection of photographs, I felt like, wow, if only that existed for every film I ever liked watching. I mean, I could sit in my space and just consume this material. I really feel like we're just warming up for a longer conversation now. But unfortunately, I've gotten enough signals from afar that I'm supposed to be winding up. Guys, thank you so much, all of you, for participating in this conversation. I hope we touched upon some interesting spaces. Maybe as a parting question, could you each talk about one definitive visual that you want to talk about for whatever reason? Let me not. Yeah. You did? Okay, okay, sorry, okay. So, okay. Please share us your emails, we'll send you the answer there. Okay.
We can, of course, answer the question, but before that,
Yeah. Do we open it for the audience as well? No?
yes, there might not be enough time, unfortunately.
Okay, I'll let you be.
Trailer first, and then share your response. Yeah?
We can be straight, bi, gay, trans, whatever, and still be struggling with emotions that people are going through. And you know what? That's not right. If it's coming from here, it's right.
I mean, I really enjoy Justin's work as well, so quite excited about this. So do we wrap up with? Yeah. Since this was supposed to be about stills and the static visual specifically, maybe you each can talk about one definitive visual for whatever reason, at whatever point that really stayed with you.
Well, there are a lot. So if I talk about photography, the first person who comes to my mind is Sebastião Salgado. His work definitely was very striking, and it basically affected me a lot and pushed me to basically learn about his craft and also his nuanced way of storytelling, and also, of course, the themes he worked on. And if I talk particularly about films, I would say it's Deepa Mehta's trilogy, Water, Fire, Earth. That was definitely the three films that impacted me a lot, and the visuals of those films was just stunning. And apart from that, I have been highly influenced by Iranian cinema as well.
கடைசியா சொல்லிட்டேன்.
She wants to go last.
Oh. Yeah, very smart. It's funny, I don't know how to say this, but I would like, I have three names in mind, and all three are like very different. Like, I'm very inspired by Caravaggio. I love Caravaggio's work, but I also, in the same breath, I want to say Robert Mapplethorpe, but also in the same breath, I want to say Beatrix Potter. For me, there is one particular work by Caravaggio. I love how he plays with light and shadow. And there's this one work, I think it's called The Resurrection of Christ, where there is a person who is actually, there's an open wound in Christ's torso, abdomen, and there's a person who's just about to touch the wound, and you can see the opening of the wound and all of that. It's pretty.
Shruti, are we at all able to show that visual?
Is it? Yeah, I think that's the one. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, it's by Caravaggio, and I saw it in, I think, Germany in some, and I remember standing in front of it and bawling like for I don't know how long, and people were like, I was really embarrassed, but I was just so overwhelmed. Robert Mapplethorpe, of course, I feel that Robert Mapplethorpe's work exists at a point of sexuality and gender identity and using nature to sort of amalgamate one into the other, which I find very fascinating. For me, it is food in that sense. I mean, I've made a film called Bantikki Bharachi Korma, clearly. So, but Mapplethorpe in a very different light. But I also like Beatrix Potter, and I grew up like reading a lot of Beatrix Potter. So for me, like Peter Rabbit is such an interesting, powerful visual. Like, here is a woman in the early 90s or late 1800s who decided to dress her pet rabbit in a waistcoat. How stupidly cute, right? And which gave generations of children to come a place to dream. And I find that very fascinating, not just as a visual, but also as a strong sort of turn in what storytelling can be. Maybe that was the beginning of what Toy Story is today, right? So you never know. So I feel like all of that merged together, I don't know what that becomes. Definitely not my film, but maybe I'm inspired by all three in very different ways, and I would love to create something out of that someday. The pressure is on. You asked me to go before you.
Yeah. ஃபோட்டோகிராஃபி சார்ந்து ஒரு பெரிய இன்டலெக்ட் இல்லை. நான் வேறு வகையில் இன்டலெக்டாக இருக்கலாம். ஆனால் ஃபோட்டோகிராஃபிலேருந்து ஒரு ஃபிலிம் ஸ்டூடெண்ட்டாக நான் நிறையா கற்றுக்கிறேன். ஃபோட்டோகிராஃபி வந்து எனக்கு பெர்செப்ஷனை கற்றுக் கொடுக்குது, ஸ்டேஜிங்கை கற்றுக் கொடுக்குது. அண்ட் பழனிக்குமார் பழனிக்குமாரோட ஃபோட்டோகிராஃபியில் அவர் வந்து ஒரு இடத்துல ஒரு கான்ஃபரன்ஸில் என்கிட்ட சொன்னார், மாலினி, நம்ம ஃபோட்டோ எடுக்கும்போது ஒரு ஒடுக்கப்பட்ட சமூகத்தை ஃபோட்டோ எடுக்கும்போது ஒரு அப் ஆங்கிளில் கேமரா வச்சு ஃபோட்டோ எடுக்கிறோம். இப்போ நாம் ப்ரிவிலேஜ் ஆகும், அவங்க கீழேயும் நினச்சிட்டு தான் நம்மளோட ஆங்கிளே இருக்குது. ஸோ ஆங்கிளில் கூட நம்ம பொலிட்டிக்கலாக ஒர்க் பண்ண வேண்டியது இருக்குது. ஐ ஆங்கிளில் ஒரு சமூகத்தை வச்சு எடுக்கிறது எவ்வளோ அவசியம் அப்படிங்கிற அளவுக்கு என்னோட நண்பர்கள் கிட்ட இருந்து இப்போ தான் கற்றுக்க ஆரம்பிச்சிருக்கேன். ஸோ மேபி ஃப்யூச்சரில் நானும் உங்களை மாதிரி 4 படம் சொல்லலாம்.
Yeah, now I'm told we can open it for a few questions. Yeah. Okay. I'm glad we sold that idea.
Anyone? Yes.
Thank you so much. It was really insightful session. I'd like to question Mr. Taha there because I could relate to what he does more. I'm an architect and I'm into production design now. So when you told that, like you went to a Bollywood director and you're not really happy about it, I'm in the same place now. So it's more like, how do you get over this? Like, how do you know that, this is the project you really want to work about, or and how do you deal with that, like, honestly?
Well, Taha, before you answer this question, I want to apologize to you from the industry that I come from. Not all of us are bad. Trust me. I know Taha's had a bad experience. You've had a bad experience, and there are great people out there. Trust me. Don't lose hope. Do not lose hope at any point. This is all I want to say, and now Taha's all yours.
Of course, I was going to say the same thing. That was my first and the only bad experience. And after that, I worked with some amazing directors, of course, in India and overseas as well. So, of course, if it is meant to be, it will come to you naturally.
No, I had really good time, good experience with the industry. But when it comes to project, as you know, production design or visual art, so that's where I'm like confused about.
It's a tedious job, and you can't run away from it. But of course, if you enjoy doing it, you will manage it somehow. I mean, it's as easy as it. Like if you love doing it, you will do it. You will try for it again. And if you do not, then of course something else awaits for you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Any more questions?
My question is to Faraz. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm very moved by all of you, and I've also been in the advertising and film industry. And I thought that was a very interesting statement in response to the question that, you know, mainstream and sensitive cinema. And I think this is where the gender and the differentiating factor can really play a very important role when you see films and actually audiences, reach out through your film. I think you said it all when you said that, because that's the real challenge, that I think people are also getting a bit bored with, there is of course the big cinema, and the main people are trying to reach out through expression, and cinema of course is a very big vehicle. So congratulations, I'm really moved by all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, sweet. It's interesting actually what you just said, because there are big films back in the film industry, which are bombing left, right, center. Right? I don't want to name names, but really big films which were like 150 crores plus, which has bombed. They've not even made 5 crores. Exactly, because how long will a formula work? We're not doing maths. Nobody is doing math. I hate math. I don't know who loves math. I'm sure there are people in this room. We are being inclusive, but when people do math, they make films like this, which are so calculated. Everything, every action, everything that they do, sadly has become the norm. Also, the amount of celebration of toxic masculinity which has happened, I think people are done with it. Nobody gives a, damn about it anymore. So I feel when the parameter shifts from a formula to honesty, I think that's where, that's a hit formula. Because, yes, absolutely, yeah, yes, 100%. I see, my thing is that I have many, I have a lot of perspectives. Like even I feel like films, very interesting films like All We Imagine as Light, for that matter, right, which did not qualify for the Academy, did not qualify for the BAFTA or for any or the Golden Globes. I've had people who've seen All We Imagine as Light, people who are regular cinema goers from this country, who've seen the film and they were like, what happened? I didn't understand. So my question is then, who are we making a film for? Whose gaze is this? Is this film designed for a gaze of an audience sitting in the south of France, very privileged, and is it in their voice, is it in their tonality, and it does not speak to people back home? Is it mainstream in that sense enough to have a larger accessibility? So I feel like these are questions we all need to ask ourselves, and there's no right and there's no wrong. A film is a film. It's a personal, I hope it is a personal expression from an artist to the world, but these questions we must keep asking, and we must keep opening larger conversations and dialogues for us to understand who we are and what we like and how we consume things, because eventually it is an industry that consumes, it is called the entertainment industry. We're here to entertain people, right? So, is that a commentary on the audience, or I feel it's a commentary on the filmmaker, it's a commentary on the audience, it's a commentary on all of us. Nobody is away. I feel this understanding of this is the audience and that is the filmmaker is also kind of it divides us further on. I feel we're all the audiences and we're all storytellers in our own ways, in our own rights. We're all creating art in our own lives. Like Taha creates art with their camera, you create art with your documentaries and non-fiction, I do more fiction. We all do it in our own ways, in our own lights, but how does the audience respond to it, and is that something we should all, as storytellers who want to be accepted and who want our work to reach out in a wider space, should we also take that into consideration in some amount and some capability? It's a very larger conversation for all of us to have, and we'll be sitting here for months trying to talk about it. But it's an interesting thought to have in our minds, that how do we consume, and why do we consume this, and why do we like this? Are we designed to like certain aesthetics, or do we genuinely like it? Do we really like All We Imagine as Light because it won the Palme d'Or at Cannes, or do we genuinely like this film? Do we really hate Rocky Rani ki Prem Kahani because Karan Johar made it and we hate mainstream cinema? Or do we generally hate the film? What is it? Right? I mean, anything at all. But I think it's imperative when we question, when we give these big, reviews, and I think these days everyone has access to their phones and social media. Everyone is reviewing restaurants and hotels and films. Everyone is a critic. Love that journey for everyone. More power. But do we also take a beat and analyze and how, from what perspective is this coming from? I think that's important, to have a perspective clear, and then you can have a voice. But it's important to understand, where is it coming from? Is it conditioning or is it organic? And then I think that clarity will help people to create more things which are genuine and honest to who they are. And you can love, there is no right and there is no wrong, which I completely believe in. Like I personally love Rocky Rani. I did not necessarily enjoy All We Imagine as Light. And wow. See, I'm a very transparent person. I'm a very transparent person, but I also to think of how many people were sitting on the jury at the Palme d'Or. There were 3 people. 3 people decided the fate of a film. Now again, when a film wins at a Sundance, the whole country begins to jump whoever wins. But how many people were in the jury? Like, who are these people who are selecting? Who are these people who are selecting? Friends of friends, people who have sanctioned films. I think it's important to dig a little deeper. I think we're just so satiated these days by so much of overflow of information from everywhere. We've stopped analyzing things on our own. We take everything on face value and we leave it at that.
But if it didn't win these awards, would you still consider it a decent film?
No, I personally, I
don't think the awards also made it.
Yeah, I don't think it matters. Like, I saw a very interesting film I think it was a Malayalam film, I can't pronounce it. It's, my friend is acting in it, Parvati. It's been, how do you say it? I think it's the director of that film is Christo Tommy. Fabulous film. I was like, why did that film not go to the Academy? Why did that film not go to the Golden Globes? Because people did not have the same privileges and accesses that some people did, and nobody is going to talk about this. And I saw Parvati's film at a private screening in Bombay, and I saw it and I turned to Parvati and I said, push this film, you push it, you put your own money and you push it. And she's like, but I can't, because I'm just an actor, I'm hired labor for this film. The producers don't care, they're not going to push it.
Anyway, half the movies that are coming from Kerala are like this.
I mean, I don't see,
That's another conversation.
again, yeah, but this,
What comes our way,
exactly, yeah, but, and I also did not, I don't really watch a lot of Malayalam films. I only happened to see this because my friend Parvati is acting in it, and she invited me, and I saw it and I was like, wait a minute, what? This is amazing, right? And nobody is talking about it. I recommended that film to people who I know who sit at the Academy and who are at BAFTA and Golden Globes, and they were like, Did it win any awards though? Did it go to Cannes? Did it go to Sundance? I was like, no, it did not, but it's a great film. They were like, now, the film that won the Academy, Anora. Has anyone seen Anora in this room? Yeah, like 3-4 of us, right? It was a film, it's an independent film made for $6 million. $6 million, an independent film. Okay, great. I mean, I made a mainstream film for like not even half that budget, right, in India. Never mind. But what was very interesting about Anora was that they invested $18 million for their Academy campaign, and then it won 4 Academy Awards. Everything is bought, everything is designed, everything is for effect. But who's going to question? Who's going to bell the cat? Right? Who's going to talk about the elephant in the room? Did I see Anora? Yes. Did I like Anora? I was like, whatever. Was it life changing? No. I would prefer to see Pretty Woman again. Which has Julia Roberts, and she's fantastic. It's based on Pretty Woman, by the way, Anora, and in a very different way and very different light. But didn't do anything to me. On a personal level, even as a filmmaker, it didn't do anything to me. I was like, yeah, cool, whatever. Like, will I think about it 10 years down the line? Hell no. Were there films that I would think 10 years down the line that should have been there? Yes. Did they even get shortlisted? No. So I think this gatekeeping that we all do in our own lives also, it's not just about filmmakers and bad people in Bollywood, but I think it's everywhere. We are all gatekeepers in such strong ways, and we only allow things. Nepotism is everywhere. It's not just Karan Johar doing nepotism, and each one of us doing nepotism. Me also, I think at times, when someone comes to me, I'm like, oh, who sent you? It's a default. It's like a conditioning that, did you come by reference? If you come by reference, I'll come say it. But wait a minute, what is wrong with all of us?
I think if we let him, that would go on for another.
Yeah, sorry, I'm going to stop.
I can tell you guys.
But please, yeah.
I want to support that boy over there who's been waiting to ask you.
Thanks, Sudhir. Right, so I actually had 2-3 questions, but you answered one of them already, which was...
See, I'm good like that, okay?
Yeah, so I'm coming to the next question. So, Malini, this is... Actually, I'm going to take the answer. In terms of representation, நம்ம films பார்க்குற queer persons இருக்கட்டும், people from the LGBTQ community இருக்கட்டும், ஒரு specific background, social background, or specific cultural background, or specific privilege, and that's அதில் தான் நம்ம திருப்பி பார்த்துட்டு இருக்கோம் இல்லைங்களா? நம்ம இப்போ இந்தியாவிலே வந்து even if they're making big budget movies out of it, you again, as Faraz already mentioned, you see the Malhotras and the Sindhyas who are, who are coming out, right? But you're not seeing real people who face this struggle. Where does that change start? Like, where does that push for envelope for commercial cinema to start representing diverse background come? That is one. And Faraz, I'm going to just come to you as well and ask. So, எங்க ஆரம்பிக்கும் அந்த, அதாவது வந்து இந்த மக்களையும் நம்ம வந்து ரெப்ரசென்ட் பண்ணணும், இந்த மக்களுமே வந்து பெரிய திரையில தெரியணும் அப்படின்ற கமர்ஷியல் படத்துல
இல்ல நானும் ஃபராஸும் ப்ரொடியூசர் ஆகும்போது ஒரு ஹெட்ரோசெக்சுவல் ப்ரொடியூசர் கிட்ட போய் நிற்கும் போது அவங்க என்ன உள்ள வைக்கணும்னு நினைக்கிறாங்களோ அது வரும்.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yes, we spoke of it. We just met yesterday and we were talking about how it's so interesting in a strange city. Queer people are the first people to reach out and be like, let's be friends, and we like had a great time. And I literally turned to Malini and I said, listen, write a film, let's produce it, let's find the money, let's produce it, let's put it out there, let's win Sundance, let's win Oscars, right? But I think maybe one day when I become a producer.
பேனாவும் பணமும் எந்த ஒடுக்கப்பட்ட சமூகமோ இல்லை எந்த வாழ்க்கையை பற்றி பேசணுமோ அது ரெண்டும் அங்கேருந்து ஆரம்பிச்சதுன்னா நம்ம நினைக்கிற விஷயங்கள் நடக்கும். கேமராவை விடுங்க, டைரக்டரை விடுங்க, ஆக்டரை விடுங்க, அந்த பேனா எழுதப்படுற கதை, கொடுக்கப்படுற காசு, இது ரெண்டும் முடிவு பண்ணுது.
I'm so sorry. I just wanted to ask you, like, because you said that you're making Bandiki right now, that's still a little bit of a commercial film, right? So where do you find
Mainstream.
Mainstream, sorry, my bad. Mainstream film. So, where do you, how do you strike that balance between telling a story that is closer to your heart, that's about representation, but is also palpable to a audience, or to a larger audience?
See, I have grown up watching Bollywood. Right, I've grown up watching हम आपके हैं कौन दिल है दिल ले जाएंगे दिल तो पागल है all these films. So I have grown up with that. But then at the same time, I was also watching Majid Majidi because my dad used to travel a lot and he used to pick up random random films from his travel. And there was this one day, I think I was 10 years old when I saw Children of Heaven, and I was like, what is this film? I said, why are people making such different films? And he was like, what do you mean? Right? And then I started thinking differently. I feel it's not really about balancing. It's not really about, it's about, again, reiterating something that I said earlier. It's about who you are as an artist. If you like all of Caravaggio work, because I love Caravaggio, all of Caravaggio's work is in a very similar taste. It deals with shadows and it deals with light. Right? I feel my work, I don't know what the theme is because Sisako is very different, Sheer Korma is very different, Bantiki is something different, but there's a theme that I see now after doing, and of course I directed a Netflix series which, one has to work also for money, you have to run a house, I have 6 cats to feed. So, what is the theme, where does it come from? I think you keep evolving. That evolution also at times dictates of what you make. Right? Because I want to also make really independent films, but then you also really struggle trying to raise monies for it. Like I want to make a film about a vampire who's gay. Who's going to produce it? Have you met Bollywood? They'll throw shoes at me and say, go back to where you came from, right? So it's in, where does it start? So I think I honestly, I had no idea Bantiki is going to be my first feature film. It's about a 7-year-old child and his single father, based in a mountain in Uttarakhand. It's based in Nainital. It's like, it looks like a fairy tale. It is a fairy tale, but it's about this child and his father. It is so sensitive. I was so scared to even pitch this film because people out there are ruthless. They come back with the worst feedback. They're like, "ये लड़का क्यों है इसको ऐसा बड़ा करो?" Sorry to speak in Hindi, but they're like, why is this about a 7-year-old child? Nobody gives a damn about a 7-year-old child. Make him into a 19-year-old macho man with 8-pack abs, and yes, we'll roll it, put 5 songs in it, 1 item song, we're rolling it, right? So, but you have to stick your gun. You have to fight for what you believe until you can fight, I guess. It's not easy at all. Because eventually, you have responsibilities, you have a job to do, but you also have a job as an artist. And what you put out in this world today, in terms of what is going to last longer than I will, you have to be very careful with what you put out. I will also, in the same, just to close this, I want to mention, last month, very interesting script was sent to me by a Dalit non-binary individual who lives in Kashmir, and they moved there, they worked there and all of that, and they sent me the script and they said, I want you to direct it. And I said, I will never direct this film because I don't understand the experiences that you are mentioning as a Dalit individual, but what I can do is I can try and find and raise monies for you so that you get to tell your story authentically. That is how I can help you. But I won't be able to take that platform away from you saying, yeah, it's a great story, let me take it from you, let me make it. It's not my story to tell.
What's your email?
You can find me on Instagram. But I think that is also important. Allow people to tell their stories in their own ways and in their own voices. That is what is really going to make a difference, and not by saying, let me grab this and let me grab that. Your spotlight is your spotlight, your mic is your mic. That's important.
I may interrupt. I just wanted to take a moment to also talk about a show on cinema that we are exhibiting as part of the CPB4, and I would like to invite the curator of the show, who's also a dear friend, and he was the reason that I kind of reconnected with Sudhir. Sudhir and I have known each other probably many years ago, but somewhere we lost touch, and I'd like to invite Nirmal Rajagopalan, a round of applause for him. And I request him to share a little more about his curation of this beautiful show.
Thank you, Shuji. Thank you guys for a great conversation. It was great fun listening to you. Just wanted to introduce everyone here to an exhibit. Some of you have caught it, but for those of you who haven't, the last 2 days of the exhibit again, tomorrow and day after, at the Thiruvanmayur Children MRTS Park, there's an exhibit showcasing the works of photographer Lakshmi Kantan. He's a set photographer. We saw some works that you'd shown, but this is from a period much before this and much after what you have on the walls here. So this is late 70s, early 80s Tamil cinema. Works of a number of films of Bhakti Raja, of a couple of movies that you've seen, Rajnikant or Kamal Hassan, or a lot of the stars of that period, in some iconic frames that, though, like Taha was talking about, the perspectives are not what you actually saw on screen when you watch those movies. So Lakshmi Kantan again was somebody who shot a lot of candids. You see a lot of the emotions or action sequences frozen in place. And if you've watched any of these movies yourself, it kind of takes you back into a space of nostalgia that just talks about the grandeur of cinema of that time, but at the same time, visuals that are very compelling just by themselves, even if you don't have a background to what those particular movies are about. I'm doing guided walkthroughs of the exhibit tomorrow evening at 5 and again on Sunday evening at 5. The walkthroughs will be bilingual. If anybody is interested, I can do either in English, Tamil பேசனாலும் பிரச்சனை இல்லை. யார் அங்கே வரீங்கன்னா வாங்க 5 மணிக்கு Thiruvanmayur MRTS Children's Park. The Thiruvanmayur MRTS station is just பக்கத்தில் Tidal Park opposite. So that's all we have. Hope to see some of you there tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think there was one last question, if we are okay to take. Yeah, one last one. One last question.
Hi, the question is to all the panel members. So, in the last years, we have seen cisgender actors portraying queer characters in mainstream films like Kadal, and the story is told in a pretty nice way, while movies like Emilia Perez, they cast queer actors but still rely on stereotypical narratives. So what is your take on that, and how can we ensure that all the sections of filmmaking brings out authentic narratives?
இங்கே கம்மிங் அவுட் ஆனவங்களோட பர்சன்டேஜ் எவ்வளவு? ஆக்டர்ஸோட பர்சன்டேஜ். கம் அவுட் ஆகாத ஆக்டர்ஸோட பர்சன்டேஜ் எவ்வளவு? 80%, 90%, 98%. அப்போ கம் அவுட் ஆனவங்க மட்டும்தான் குயர் சினிமாவில் நடிக்கணுங்கிற ஒரு கேள்வியை நீங்கள் வைக்கிறீங்க. கம் அவுட் ஆகாதவங்க இந்த மாதிரி கேரக்டர்லனாச்சும் நான் குயராக நடிச்சுக்கிறேன், ஊரில் அம்மன் வேஷம் போட்டுனாச்சும் என்னோட பெண் தன்மையை வெளியில் காமிச்சுக்கிறேன், ஒரு சிவன் வேஷம் போட்டுனாச்சும் நான் ஒரு ஆம்பளைங்கிற உணர்வை வெளிப்படுத்துகிறேங்கிற உலகம்தான் இது. அப்போ இந்த குயர் மட்டும்தான் குயர் கேரக்டர் பண்ணுங்கிற இந்த எண்ணம் யாரை ஒடுக்கும்னா கம் அவுட் ஆகாத குயர் ஆர்டிஸ்ட்டை ரொம்ப அப்ரெஸ் பண்ணும். நீங்கள் கம் அவுட் ஆகிற ஸ்பேஸை கொடுத்துட்டு இந்த கேள்வியை கேளுங்க.
Yeah, I agree to you. I think Emilia Perez is a really problematic film, though I had to promote it because I had to make some money on Instagram. But regardless, I can be honest in this room. It's a deeply problematic film because it really plays into a lot of stereotypes, not just about the trans community, but also about Mexicans and so on, and so it's really deeply problematic. Having said that, even Sophia, the color Sophia, is her Twitter really blew up, right? Because of her tweets which went viral about how racist she is and how Islamophobic she is and how fatphobic she is and all of that. Where does one really draw the line, you know, when you cast it? I actually had a very interesting thing. I actually worked with a trans actor in Sheer Korma. I gave an opportunity to a trans actor who I worked with in one of my workshops, and they got a role. And the day of the shoot, they showed up completely out of it. They did not perform, and they had a big scene, a 5-minute scene with Shabana Azmi. And Shabana ji was very, very, very polite. Shabana ji did 25 takes. Usually when she's performing, she does 2 takes, 3 takes, and she's done. With this trans actor who was, you know, it was her first film, she gave 25 takes back to back, back to back, back to back. And to the point that she turned to me and she said, "Do you want to keep doing this more? And should we continue?" And at some point of time, I had to stop shooting the scene because I had to also wrap up, you know, because everything is money on a film set. You have 12 hours to finish so many scenes, and there's a producer standing saying, like the way we have someone here standing saying, "Time's up." Everything's money in this world, right? So, where do you draw your line? What do you do? I don't think I have an answer to that, but I do think it's a great question. And I feel if we keep asking this question more and more, someday we might have an answer. But representation is important. And one day we hope to find the right actor to play the right role, and eventually that becomes a really moving point in not just cinema, but I think for all of us, because then, you know, when you do things and you just don't do it for representation, but you also do it for the merit of the actor. When I made Sheer Korma, I have made a film about a queer characters. Do I know how Divya identifies what's Divya Datta's sexual preference? I have no idea. Do I know how Swara identifies? I don't know. Shabana ji? No idea. Did I ask them? No. They threw a shoe on my face and asked me to get out. Sometimes you don't really get to ask. How many actors in Bollywood or in across the globe have to be inside the closet just because they can continue to work? I know so many of them, and you'd be surprised if I would even name one person in this room. No, not my case.
இப்போ குயர் சினிமாவில் இந்தியாவில் நடிச்சிருக்கிற பாதி பேர் குயரா இல்லையாங்கிற உண்மை எனக்கு தெரியும். ஆனால் அவங்கள சொல்லி கட்டாயப்படுத்துதுல இந்த சொசைட்டி, அது ரொம்ப வன்மமா பார்க்குறேன்.
I think we also need to understand we are the problem where people don't come out. They don't want to be out of work. So many of them are so afraid to come out. They won't even like to put up one little thing, even on their close friend's story, afraid that someone will take a screenshot and share it and they'll be out of work. That's the world we live in. It's very interesting to sit in, you know, these lovely rooms where everyone is inclusive and everyone's happy and say, "Yeah, inclusion, yeah, this, yeah." But the real fight is outside of this room. When I go out and when they go out and when he goes out, and we carry on in our own lives and in our own journeys to continue to push, it's very difficult. It's really very difficult. And again, great question, no answer, but hopefully we find the answer someday.
No, I mean, there is an answer there between what both of you said. The idea is not to just look at one aspect of it and say, "Hey, this is how it should be done." I think both of you are united in sharing that approach and saying there is no one way for it. You know, don't just problematize one aspect of it. Don't just say this is the only truth here. This is how it should be done. Yeah. But yeah, we could go on for a long time, I think.
But I think it's a nice idea. I think it'll be a really nice show to have in India, saying whose truth is it anyway? Right? It can be deeply political, very problematic, which I think should be done. It'll be so exciting. I would love that. You know, we could probably produce it in Mexico. And whose truth is it anyway? Yeah, that should be the next panel. I think, you know, maybe we'll find some lies, a lot of lies there in that. I think that'll be exciting, and maybe we'll find an answer to your question.
Yes, session began with an exploration of many ideas, ended with the formation of a new one. Thank you so much, all of you, for participating in this conversation. You all were a very supportive audience, very enthusiastic as well, very polite. Thank you so much. Thank you all.